Hey everybody, I'm Chris, and this is my channel Chesapeake Chris. Thanks for stopping by. This week, we're going to look at fishing hacks, gadgets, and doodads. Some of these things are purchased, some of these things are actually some hacks. You're probably going to want to see a lot of these, if not all of them, so please stick around. This is the first gadget we're going to look at. This is a fish attractant or a chum bottle, whatever you want to call it. But I saw this on a video. They're easy to make. Get a pill bottle and you just drill a bunch of holes in it. Put them in the top, the bottom, all around it. Then you put some fishing line through it, through the middle. But you got to make sure it's long enough here where you can get the cap off and access the bottle. And what you do is you fill this bottle with whatever you want that will attract fish. I don't care. Chicken livers, gizzards, worms, whatever. You can put them in there. And then I just put a couple beads on this end. And I told you I don't use this type of barrel swivel too often. Well, this is one time when I did. Tie a barrel swivel on this end. And then I tied a snap swivel on the other end. And then what you can do is, like I say, you just fill this thing up and then you can clip this swivel onto the swivel on your line. You can clip a hook on the end here where the swivel is, and then you can cast that out and the water will go in this bottle and the scent will hopefully attract fish. The only thing I wanted to say is you don't want to, I've tried using this and it doesn't work well with one of these high-low rigs. It gets all tangled up. Everything gets all tangled up. I was using it for surf fishing, and when I cast it out, everything got all tangled up. What I suggest you use it with is, I don't know if you can make your own drop rigs, single drop rigs. It's pretty easy. I just put a loop in that one. I got a drop in there. There's a lot of videos showing you how to do a line drop. And then I tie a swivel on this end so I can put a sinker on there. And then you just hook your hook on there. On that drop loop, and you can attach this onto the bottom of this thing at that snap swivel and then throw it out. You won't get tangled up near as much. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if it helps much, but I don't know. I've tried to use it. I don't think it necessarily increased my catch. Here's another easy thing to do. It's kind of a hack. I don't know if you noticed when I showed this high-low rig. You can take just a wine bottle cork and you can cut it into skinny slices like that with a sharp knife, and you can put that on your hooks. And that way, you know, a lot of times I'll store my rigs like that with these little pieces of wine cork on them. That way they don't get all tangled up quite so bad, and you don't take a risk of running a hook in your finger. That's just a little hack. And here's another little hack that I do. I use these Plano boxes a lot in all different sizes. Well, if these dividers don't go all the way up to the top of the lid, skinny things like swivels and hooks can slide over or underneath them and get all mixed into the other compartments. So how I keep my swivels is, what I do is I just take a safety pin. You can just take all your swivels and put them on a safety pin like that. That way they all stay together. It's real easy to reach in your box and grab them out. You take one off. You don't have to worry about when you open your box, they spill out and you can't find these little things everywhere. But I use a safety pin. You also could use a key ring or a paper clip. Just anything to keep them all together so that they don't slide around your box. And once again, it makes them real easy to reach in there and just grab them out, and you just open this pin and take one off. I think that's a good way to store swivels, and you can do it with hooks too if you have small hooks. Just run the pin through the eyelets. I want to clear up a little bit of confusion some people have with circle hooks too. You can see these two hooks. This one's much smaller than that one, but they're the same basic shape. And technically this one is a circle hook, but this one is not. And what makes a circle hook is not necessarily just the shape of the hook body, but the point has actually got to turn back and face the shank of the hook at pretty much a 90-degree angle. See how it turns back? That is a true circle hook. This here is just shaped a lot like a circle hook, but the point is just straight up. It doesn't turn back. So technically this is not a circle hook, and in some places you have to use circle hooks, so you don't want to use something like this. If you want to get an actual circle hook, you want to get one with the point like that. Sometimes when I surf fish or pier fish and the fishing action isn't really great, I'll use bells on the tips of my rod like a lot of people. Here's a couple different types of bells that I've tried. This first one here, this is supposed to glow in the dark, which is kind of insane because it just doesn't glow in the dark that long. So I think that's kind of useless. But the thing I don't like about this particular bell is the end here where you put it on the tip of your fishing rod. That opening is so narrow. You have to have a really narrow rod to snap that thing on there. I have a hard time snapping it onto any of my rods. So I bought these, but they weren't really a good purchase. Here's one I use a lot. This is pretty simple and pretty basic, and it just has the clamp on it. So you literally can just clamp that on your fishing rod and you're good to go. The only problem with this one is if you're casting, I always take it off, because when I first started using these and I'd cast out, the bell would come off and go flying into the water. Sometimes if you set the hook really hard, it may go flying off behind you. But I just take them off before I cast, and these actually work pretty well. Then here's another type. This type is kind of interesting because they stay on your rod pretty good, because it actually, let me show you first, it actually tightens down. You turn this part here and it will actually tighten down on your rod. So you loosen that up and you slip that on your rod like that, and then you tighten it down. Like I say, the only problem is it's plastic, so you don't want to over tighten it. But yeah, you put that on the end of your rod and you tighten that thing down, and they stay on pretty good. You can actually cast with these and everything. Once again, all of them are pretty loud. You can hear them when you get a bite. But I use this one or this style, and I actually generally use this style. I don't mind having to take it off and on when I cast. That's a couple different types of bells that I've tried. Sometimes when I'm surf fishing or pier fishing, I like to use a sliding weight so the fish can't feel the weight right away when he picks up your bait. I used to use those egg-shaped sinkers with the hole through them. I kind of like this style better. I found this sliding sinker set up here, and it's this little yellow thing that you feed your line through, and it's got a clip on it, so you can clip a sinker on it then, and you just run your line through there, tie a swivel on the end, and then you put your hook on the swivel. And that way, this thing can slide, so when the fish picks up your bait and starts to pull, he won't feel all that weight. The good thing about these, at least I think it is if you want to change from using this, you literally can just take this clip off, and you can actually leave that little yellow plastic piece on there. That way you don't have to cut your line and retie. You can get that clip off that little yellow piece. But yeah, I use these. I think these work really well. I like them better than the egg-shaped sinkers with the hole in them. And if I don't want a sliding sinker, a lot of times if I'm not doing a high-low rig especially, I'll use this type of sinker when I'm surf fishing. You can get these things all different sizes. These are kind of nice because you hook them on, and when you throw them out, those prongs try to dig in, so it holds really good if it's a windy or wavy day. But if you get stuck, when you yank really hard then, these prongs actually, it's hard to do. These prongs will actually flip like that when you pull hard, and now it will come out. It won't, you get stuck a lot less often with these because of how these things will flip over like that. But yeah, I use these a lot of times. They cost a little more than the standard pyramid sinkers, but they work pretty good. And they hold really well. And the last gadget I'm going to talk about for this video is this thing here. Some people probably seen them, some haven't. It's called a hook ease. It actually has quite a few functions, and we're going to look at a couple of them here. One of the things you can do with it is you can open it up And at the end of the day, if you don't want to take your fishing hook off your line, but you don't want to take a chance of somebody getting hooked with it, you can lay it inside there and you can close this guy up. Now your hook point is protected. And then you can just take, because it has this ring on the end of it, you can take and you can clip that right onto your rod. And there you go. You can leave your hook on, but the point is protected. You can also tie a bunch of different types of knots and stuff with this. So let me show you a couple of those. This thing can also hold hooks and make it a little bit easier to tie knots, depending on what knot you're tying. But it's got different size holes in the end, so you can actually, whichever one works best, you can lay your hook in there and you can close it. Then you can run your fishing line through the eyelet, or you can run it through before you put it in the hookies. And then once you get it through the eyelet like that, this little ring you can actually put like on your finger. Now the ring isn't real big, so if you got big fingers, that may be a little bit of a problem. I don't have really big fingers. But once you get your line through the hook and you get your finger in there, then you can just use this to spin it. So if you want to tie the type of knot where you wrap it around the line a bunch of times, you can actually use this to spin it, and then you can take your fishing line end and run it back through the loop and tighten it down. So it does make it easier to spin it. And then it even has a little cutter on the back. If you take your hook out, it's got a little line cutter on the back. It works okay. You got to kind of put your line underneath it and hold down with your thumb and just pull real hard, and it cuts your line right off. So, like I say, it'll hold a hook, and it's easier to spin it to tie that type of knot. And just to show you, not only does it hold just regular hooks, but you can actually put a small jig head in there and it'll hold that guy. So you can run your line through it and then twist it to tie it on if that's what you want to do. It'll also hold swivels. You can lay a swivel in there and have the ring stick out the end that you're going to tie your line onto, close it down, and now you can tie your line onto that. There's a snap swivel. You can also take a swivel that doesn't have a snap on it, and you can lay that in there, close it down, and it'll hold that ring, and then you can stick your line through it. And once again, depending on what type of knot, you can use it to spin it around quite a few times before you run your line back through the loop. So that's its main two purposes, I guess, is to help you tie knots onto hooks and swivels. And it's a hook guard that you can snap over your hook and clip it onto your fishing rod eyelet, so your hook is protected. You could probably use this to tie snell knots also. I don't use this a lot. I don't think it was worth the money that I paid for it, because they're not cheap considering, and I'm not too sure how long it's going to last with that plastic hinge on the lid. But like I say, I tried them out. I don't use it a whole lot anymore because I tie mainly snell knots. So that's the hookies. Well, thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please give me a thumbs up, like, share it. Hit the subscribe button so you get notified the next time I put one out. And I'll see you on the next video.